Welcome to your quiet reading time. We'll be reading some fascinating stories. Now, let's read together.
Chapter 1: The Cosmic Egg and the Long Sleep. Long before the first sunrise, long before the wind blew across the mountains, there was no world. There was no time to measure the days, and there was no space to hold the stars. The universe was completely blind and deaf. In Chinese mythology, this ancient, undifferentiated state is called chaos. However, chaos was not completely empty. It was not emptiness or death, but a thick, heavy ocean of invisible energy. Everything was mixed together in a perfect, endless darkness. There was no up, and there was no down. There was no left, and there was no right. Imagine a massive, black cosmic egg, quietly floating in an endless sea of shadows. Inside this giant egg, a miracle was sleeping. It was a life, a soul, and a giant. His name was Pangu. He was the first god, the quiet seed of the entire universe. Although he was surrounded by thick darkness, he was not dead. He was simply waiting. For 18,000 years, Pangu slept in the center of the dark egg. 18,000 years is a length of time that human minds cannot easily understand. It is an ocean of time. Meanwhile, as he slept, he breathed. His slow breathing was the very first rhythm of the universe. In and out, deep and heavy. With every breath he took, the giant grew stronger. The heavy energy of chaos fed his enormous body. His bones slowly became harder than the strongest rocks. His muscles gradually became thicker than the tallest mountains. He was gathering power in the dark, preparing for a grand and mighty destiny. But the darkness could not hide him forever. The cosmic egg was becoming too small for his huge body. The eternal silence was waiting to be broken. Pangu was still dreaming, but his dreams were no longer about the darkness. He was dreaming about the light. Chapter 2: The Awakening and the Great Split. Suddenly, the long dream ended. Pangu opened his eyes. However, there was nothing to see. The darkness was so thick that it felt like a heavy, wet blanket pressing tightly against his face. He could not stretch his arms. He could not straighten his legs. The cosmic egg, which was once a warm and safe cradle, had become a cold and narrow prison. A new feeling grew inside the giant's heart. It was not fear, but a powerful anger. He could not accept this blind and tight world. His soul desired light, and his massive body demanded space. The first god decided to fight against the endless night. He reached out his huge hands into the dark, thick ocean of energy around him. By the power of his strong will, the sharpest and heaviest parts of chaos began to gather in his hands. Slowly, they formed a giant weapon. It was a massive axe. This magical axe carried the weight of 1,000 mountains and the sharp edge of a winter storm. Pangu gripped the handle firmly. He took a deep breath, pulling all the silent energy into his chest. Then, with a shocking roar, Pangu swung the great axe. He struck the dark shell of the egg with all his strength. Crack! The sound was louder than any thunder that humans have ever heard. It was the explosive cry of a new universe being born. A blinding line of pure white light suddenly flashed across the endless black screen. The thick shell of chaos was finally broken. As the cosmic egg cracked open, the mixed energy began to move and change. The elements that were light, clear, and warm slowly floated upward. They spread out smoothly like a gentle morning mist and became the wide, endless sky. This was the birth of Yang, the bright and active force of the universe. At the exact same time, the elements that were heavy, cold, and muddy sank downward. They packed tightly together, becoming harder and harder, until they formed the solid, thick earth. This was the birth of yin, the quiet and heavy force. For the very first time in history, the universe had a top and a bottom. The sky and the earth were finally separated by the blade of a single axe. Chapter 3: The Pillar Between Heaven and Earth. The great wall of darkness was broken, and the light was born. However, the work of Pangu was far from over. Although the sky and the earth were now separated, they were like two massive magnets that deeply desired to be together again. The clear air of the sky wanted to fall, and the heavy soil of the earth wanted to rise. If Pangu stepped away, the universe would collapse back into the dead silence of chaos. Everything he had achieved would be lost in a single moment. To prevent this tragedy, the first god chose a life of unimaginable difficulty. He dropped his axe and used his own body to hold the world apart. He stood in the center of the emptiness, reaching his powerful arms upward to support the sky, while pressing his huge feet downward to stabilize the earth. He became the only pillar in a world that had no mountains yet. He became the living bridge between the high blue spirit and the deep brown matter. Day after day, a magnificent and slow movement began to happen. Every day, the sky rose 10 feet higher into the unknown distance. Every day, the earth became 10 feet thicker and more solid. And every day, Pangu grew 10 feet taller to match the increasing distance. He was growing at the exact same speed as the universe. His body was the measure of the world's size. When the sky was low, he was a giant. When the sky became high, he became a tower that reached beyond the clouds. This process lasted for another 18,000 years. During this incredibly long period, Pangu was completely alone. There were no birds to sing for him, no trees to give him shade, and no other living souls to speak to. He lived in a world of absolute silence, broken only by the sound of his own heartbeat and the whistling of the cold wind at the high altitude. The weight of the entire sky pressed down on his head and shoulders. The heat of the growing earth burned the soles of his feet. His muscles were always tight, and his bones groaned under the pressure, but he never moved a single inch. Pangu's persistence was stronger than the gravity of the earth and the vastness of the sky. He watched the light of the sun and the moon beginning to form in the distance, though they were not yet fully alive. He felt the passage of time not through clocks or calendars, but through the changing texture of his own skin and the increasing strength of his own spirit. Chapter 4: The Ultimate Sacrifice. The sky was finally high and stable, the earth was finally deep and firm. The great wait of 18,000 years had come to an end. Pangu, the father of the universe, was now older than time itself. He looked at the world he had supported for so long. It was vast, but it was still empty and silent. Pangu knew that his final task was not to stand, but to give. With a long, peaceful sigh, the giant finally let go. He closed his eyes and allowed his massive body to fall toward the earth. The sound of his fall was not a crash, but a deep vibration that woke up the sleeping world. As he lay on the ground, a magnificent transformation began. Pangu was not dying, he was changing his form to become the very world he had created. First, his breath escaped from his mouth and became the invisible winds and the soft clouds. His last shout became the rolling thunder that shakes the mountains during a storm. His left eye flew up to become the golden sun, giving warmth to all living things. His right eye became the silver moon, watching over the world during the quiet nights. His hair and beard scattered across the dark sky, becoming the countless stars. The transformation continued deep into his body. His 4 limbs and 5 parts became the 4 corners of the world and the 5 sacred mountains. His blood became the roaring rivers and the deep, blue oceans. The Yangtze and the Yellow River are the ancient blood of Pangu, still flowing through the heart of the land. His muscles turned into the rich, fertile soil of the fields. Even the smallest parts of him became gifts. His skin and hair became the green grass and thick forests. His teeth and bones sank deep into the earth, becoming hard rocks, gold, and precious jade. His sweat rose into the air and fell as the refreshing rain. Finally, the world was no longer a silent stage. It was a vibrant, living masterpiece. Pangu was gone, but everywhere you looked, you were looking at him. Chapter 5: The Legacy of the First God. The story of Pangu is more than just an ancient tale. It is the very first page of the long cultural history of Chinese civilization. For thousands of years, this story was passed down through oral tradition. However, it was during the Three Kingdoms period that a famous scholar named Xu Zheng collected these legends. He wrote them down in a book called Sanwu Liji. Because of his work, the name of Pangu was preserved in ink, becoming a permanent part of the Chinese soul. But why has this story survived for so long? What is the deeper meaning? To understand Pangu is to understand the core spirit of the Chinese people. The first lesson is the spirit of self-sacrifice. Pangu did not create the world for his own fame. He gave his entire body to the land. This is the ultimate expression of great love. It teaches that true greatness is found in what you leave behind for others. Furthermore, the myth of Pangu describes a unique relationship between humans and nature. This idea is called Tianren Hari, or the harmony between heaven and humans. It suggests that we are not masters of nature, nor are we its enemies. We are a part of it. When we walk on the earth, we are walking on Pangu's skin. This belief has shaped how Chinese culture respects the environment. The image of Pangu standing alone also represents the power of human will. He was the pioneer who faced the unknown. He didn't wait for the light, he created the light. This Pangu spirit has lived on through every generation, in the people who built the Great Wall and in modern dreamers who reach for the stars. Today, Pangu doesn't need a tomb made of stone. His true monument is the world itself. Every time the sun rises, Pangu wakes up. Every time a child asks where did we come from, Pangu is remembered. As long as the sky is high and the earth is deep, the story of the first god will continue to inspire those who look up at the stars.
Alright, that's all for today's story. Thank you for watching. See you next time.